Snowflakes drifted across the glowing streets, landing softly on Adrian Hale's shoulders as he stood outside the warm bakery window, pretending he was just admiring the decorations. But deep down he knew the truth: he was stalling. Going back to his silent penthouse felt heavier than the winter air around him. Inside, families gathered around steaming cups of cocoa, children laughed as they pointed at gingerbread houses, and couples exchanged small gifts wrapped with care. Adrian watched them with a quiet ache, wondering when joy had slipped out of his own life without him noticing. For years he had convinced himself that success could fill every space in his heart. Meetings replaced conversations. Deals replaced birthdays. Awards replaced affection. And slowly, without realizing it, he built a world where no one truly knew him anymore. On Christmas Eve, of all nights, the emptiness felt sharper. He shifted his gaze to the snowy sidewalk, ready to turn away, when a small voice suddenly broke through the lonely quiet. "Sir, why are you standing here all alone?" He blinked, startled. A tiny girl in a red coat, holding a little stuffed rabbit, looked up at him with the kindest eyes he had seen in years. Her expression wasn't pity, it was genuine worry, the kind only a child could show so simply, so honestly. And before he could answer, something inside him whispered that this moment would change everything. Adrian lowered himself slightly to meet her gaze, unsure why her presence unsettled him in a strangely comforting way. "I'm fine," he managed, but even to his own ears the words sounded weak. The girl hugged her rabbit tighter, studying him with gentle curiosity. "My mommy says nobody should be alone on Christmas. It makes hearts feel cold like the snow." Her simple words landed deeper than any boardroom truth he'd ever heard. Before he could respond, a woman hurried toward them, balancing shopping bags and calling the girl's name. She reached them with an apologetic smile. "I'm so sorry if she bothered you. Lily likes talking to everyone." Adrian shook his head. "She's not bothering me." In fact, her voice felt like the first warm thing he had heard all evening. Lily tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, he looks lonely. Can he come to our house for Christmas dinner?" The woman froze, startled, turning to Adrian with uncertainty. The question hung in the cold air, innocent yet unexpectedly powerful. Adrian felt something in him soften, a place he had sealed shut long ago. He wasn't used to invitations that weren't tied to business, expectations, or performance. And certainly not from a child offering simple kindness with no hidden motive. The mother's cautious eyes held both hesitation and compassion. For a moment, even the street seemed to quiet, waiting for his answer. Adrian opened his mouth, unsure what he would say, when a car horn echoed down the road, snapping the moment like a thread. But the question remained, lingering inside him, asking more than he was ready to admit. Lily's mother gently guided her toward their car, murmuring, "Sweetheart, he might have his own plans." But the little girl didn't let go of Adrian's hand until the very last step. "If you don't have anywhere to go, you can sit with us," she whispered, as if sharing a secret meant only for him. Her words wrapped around Adrian like a quiet promise he didn't know how to accept. He watched them walk away, Lily hopping through the snow, her mother carefully placing bags inside the trunk of an old, fading sedan. Something about the scene tugged harder than he expected. Their world was simple, imperfect, but undeniably warm. He hadn't felt that warmth in years. Just as he turned to leave, a soft thud broke the silence. Lily's small stuffed rabbit had fallen from her hands onto the snowy pavement. Adrian picked it up instinctively and took a few steps toward the car. Lily spotted him and waved, her smile bright enough to cut through the winter haze. "You saved Rosie." Her mother looked embarrassed but grateful. "Thank you. She drops that toy everywhere." Adrian held the rabbit out, but Lily pushed it back into his hands. "You give it back to me at home. When you come for dinner." The certainty in her voice stunned him. There was no doubt, no hesitation, just belief that he belonged somewhere. He stood there holding the little rabbit, feeling the soft fabric warm against his palm. For the first time in a long time, he wondered what would happen if he didn't walk away this time, if he chose something other than loneliness. And that thought alone was enough to stop him in his tracks. Adrian found himself standing there long after their car should have pulled away, yet the engine never started. Instead, Lily's mother stepped away from the driver's seat and approached him slowly, her breath forming soft clouds in the cold air. "She doesn't usually invite strangers," she said gently. "She only does that when she feels someone needs company." Her voice carried no judgment, only understanding, and that alone made Adrian's chest tighten in a way he couldn't explain. He glanced down at the small stuffed rabbit still resting in his hand. "She's kind," he murmured. "Kinder than most adults I've met." The woman let out a small laugh, touched with both pride and exhaustion. Life hasn't been easy for us, but I try to teach her that kindness is something we can always afford. She hesitated before adding, I'm Nora. For a moment they stood facing each other, two strangers who somehow shared the same quiet ache of trying to stay strong. Nora shifted the grocery bags and nodded toward the road. We don't live far. If you really have no plans, you're welcome to join us. Just a simple dinner. Nothing fancy. The offer felt unreal. Adrian, who spent his life attending high-level events and exclusive parties, was being invited into a small home by someone who didn't know his name or his reputation. And strangely, that was exactly why the invitation felt genuine. Before he could answer, Lily leaned over the back seat and called out, Rosie likes you. That means you're a good person. The innocence of her voice struck him deeper than the cold ever could. Adrian took a slow breath, realizing that walking away might mean losing the first spark of warmth he'd felt in years. But accepting, that meant stepping into a world he wasn't sure he deserved. Yet something in him whispered that fate had nudged him here for a reason, and the night wasn't ready to let him go. Adrian finally stepped closer to the car, the snow crunching softly under his shoes. If you're sure I won't intrude, he said, his voice quieter than he intended. Nora shook her head with a gentle firmness. Some doors open at the right moment, she replied. Maybe this is one of them. Her words wrapped around him like a calm he hadn't felt in years. He opened the car door, and Lily's face lit up as if Christmas had just grown brighter. I knew you'd come, she cheered, scooting over to make space beside her stuffed rabbit. The drive to their neighborhood was quiet yet strangely comforting. Christmas lights twinkled from small houses, each one glowing with a warmth that money could never buy. Adrian found himself relaxing, watching Lily hum a carol as she swung her little feet. Nora glanced at him through the mirror. You seem tired, she said softly. Not the kind sleep fixes. The other kind. He didn't answer, but she wasn't wrong. When they reached their home, a modest brick house with a slightly crooked wreath, Lily hopped out, tugging Adrian's sleeve eagerly. Come see. Mommy made cookies shaped like stars. The front door opened to a wave of warmth and the scent of cinnamon and roasted turkey. Adrian paused at the entrance, overwhelmed by the simple invitation into a world so different from his own. Nora noticed his hesitation. It's just us, she said. No expectations. That sentence alone felt like a gift. Inside, Lily proudly showed him their tiny Christmas tree, decorated with handmade ornaments and paper snowflakes. Adrian felt something loosen inside him, something he hadn't realized was tight for years. And as he looked at the little living room filled with soft lights and genuine joy, he sensed that this night held more than a meal. It held a turning point. A quiet opening toward something he thought he had lost forever. Dinner was simple, turkey, warm bread, star-shaped cookies, but to Adrian it felt richer than any luxurious feast he had ever attended. Lily chattered happily beside him, offering him the biggest cookie on the plate, because you looked cold outside. Nora watched her daughter with soft affection, occasionally glancing at Adrian as if trying to understand the quiet man who had stepped into their little world. Yet nothing felt forced. Nothing demanded anything from him. For once he wasn't CEO Adrian Hale. He was just a man sharing a meal on Christmas Eve. As the evening unfolded, Adrian found himself laughing, an easy, unguarded laugh he hadn't heard from himself in years. Lily insisted they all sit near the tree and help her hang the last few paper ornaments. This one is for you, she said, handing him a tiny snowflake she'd drawn by hand. His throat tightened at the gesture. No award on his office shelf had ever meant as much. Nora saw his expression and smiled gently. She gives those only to people she likes. Later, while Lily dozed off on the couch with her rabbit tucked under her arm, Nora brought Adrian a warm cup of tea. I don't know what brought you to that bakery tonight, she said softly, but I'm glad you didn't walk away. Adrian looked around the cozy living room, the glow of the small tree, the soft rise and fall of Lily's breathing, the quiet comfort of a place that felt alive, and he realized something. He had spent years building an empire, yet tonight was the first time he felt truly seen. I didn't know how lonely I was, he admitted. Nora nodded. Sometimes life waits for us to notice. The room fell into a peaceful silence, one that didn't hurt. One that felt healing. As he prepared to leave, Lily stirred awake, rubbing her eyes. Will you come back tomorrow? She whispered. Adrian felt his heart pull in a direction he hadn't expected. If your mom says yes, he replied. Nora smiled. We'd like that. When Adrian stepped outside, the cold didn't sting the way it had earlier. The world looked different, warmer, brighter, hopeful. He glanced back at the small house, its windows glowing softly like a guiding star. For the first time in years, Christmas didn't feel empty. It felt like the beginning of something real, something he never knew he needed until a little girl said, "Come have party at my place."